Welcome to the 700 Club. It could have been stopped on the spot. Well, that's what President Trump has said about the coronavirus. Instead, new evidence shows that China lied, deceiving the world with, quote, deadly denial of human-to-human transmission.
The big question, can China be held accountable for its actions? Gary Lane explains.
A report in the form of a dossier compiled by the Five Eyes says China lied about the COVID-19 outbreak. The Five Eyes are the intelligence services of the U.S., Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. They maintain that China deceived the world with, quote, deadly denial of human-to-human transmission.
I've seen what the intelligence community has said. I have no reason to believe that they've got it wrong.
Collectively, the Five Eyes say China has spread propaganda about the origin of the virus on social media, blaming the United States for the outbreak. Dr. Glenn Doerr is Associate Professor of International Studies at Cedarville University.
Maybe it was foreign travelers, maybe it had something to do with U.S. troops. They've given all these kinds of conspiracy theories just to simply try and muddy the waters out there to get the focus off of Xi Jinping and the Communist Party.
The dossier further states that China refused to hand over COVID-19 viral samples, so a vaccine could be developed. Also, that the virus leaked out from that level 4 lab in Wuhan.
It could have been stopped on the spot. They chose not to do it, or something happened. Either there was incompetence or they didn't do it for some reason.
The possible reason? A Department of Homeland Security report says China delayed informing the World Health Organization about the viral outbreak, so it could stockpile face masks and other critical PPE supplies. Regardless of the reason, a new poll shows a whopping 62% of Americans believe China is a growing problem. And several states, including Missouri, are filing damage claims against China in U.S. federal court. Hudson Institute's Robert Spalding says the COVID-19 pandemic gives the United States an opportunity to reset the China relationship.
What the coronavirus gives us an opportunity to do is really reset and isolate democracies from these authoritarian or totalitarian regimes that seek to undermine democracy, undermine free trade, undermine rule of law, undermine human rights and civil liberties, really undermine the entire fabric of the international order.
So how can China be held accountable, perhaps even punished for COVID-19? It's difficult when many countries depend on Chinese trade, nearly $500 billion annually for the United States. Appearing on the CBN News Channel program The Global Lane, China analyst Gordon Chang says the debt can actually be used against China.
So we've got to be very concerned that this is going to happen again. So we need to impose those costs. And we can do that by seizing treasury obligations that you just referred to. We shouldn't do that by ourselves, but we should do it in conjunction with other countries. And we should be cutting our trade links with China.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
Well, we likely will never know the real source of this. Our scientists are telling us it wasn't engineered, so we're not dealing with a bioweapon. They're also saying it's unlikely that it escaped from a laboratory, either intentionally or accidentally, that's unlikely. But what is clear is how China dealt with the epidemic after it became obvious, or should have become obvious. Number one, they put in prison the ophthalmologist who blew the whistle and started saying on social media, we have a real problem here. Instead of responding to that and responding with responsible efforts to contain this horrible thing, they put him in prison. And they said, oh, no, we have no problem at all. And then they put out some lies. The first big one, and this is the one that really hurts us all, that there was no human-to-human transmission when there was direct evidence that, yes, indeed, there was human-to-human transmission. The ophthalmologist who blew the whistle contracted the disease from his patients. He wasn't in the wet market. He wasn't eating animals. This wasn't part of how he got infected, and so they had direct evidence. And in the face of that direct evidence, they lied. They said this does not transmit human to humans. To add to it, the World Health Organization picked that lie up and published it. So now you have the whole world saying, okay, we can rest easy. We don't have to worry about this. In the meantime, the contagion is literally spreading all over the place. They shut down their airport in Wuhan to domestic travel, but they leave it open for international travel. What is the purpose of that? Well, obviously, they're not concerned about it spreading to other countries. They're only concerned about spreading within China. So there are a lot of questions for China to answer right now. Why did they do this? And to add to it, why did they disappear one of their lead scientists in Shanghai who had the nerve to publish the genome of the virus? He wasn't in Wuhan. He was in a laboratory in Shanghai. He put it out there to other laboratories so we could move faster on developing a vaccine. His lab is now closed down, and he is nowhere to be found. So why are they doing all of these things? It doesn't make any sense. They're definitely not trying to help the world. Now, the answer isn't to default on our treasury bills that they own. That's not the answer. The answer is to hold them accountable, and hold them accountable at the highest level, because that's where this started. In other news, social distancing fatigue has people restless and ready to return to normal life. That's causing problems for some governors trying to reopen safely. Efrem Graham has more of our top stories from the CBN newsroom.
Gordon, leaders are struggling to balance reopening their states with maintaining social distancing. Americans are hitting the outdoors in large numbers for the first time in weeks, and some are ready to throw off the rules. This park ranger in Austin, Texas, shoved into a lake as he tried to break up a crowd. In New York City, police citing more than 100 people for getting too close. President Trump now says as many as 100,000 Americans might die from the virus. In a town hall on the Fox News Channel, he stressed the administration's efforts to fight the virus, including developing a vaccine soon.
We are pushing it really hard. We're also pushing something else, the vaccines. We are very confident that we're going to have a vaccine at the end of the year. By the end of the year, have a vaccine.
At least 8 vaccines are in human trial around the world. Oxford University researchers say they could know by June if their potential vaccine is effective, and it could be ready as soon as September. Meanwhile, the makers of the therapeutic drug remdesivir say it will be available in hospitals this week. Gilead Sciences donated 1.5 million vials to the government, enough to treat as many as 200,000 patients. The Department of Justice is siding with the Virginia Church in its lawsuit against Governor Ralph Northam. Pastor Kevin Wilson of Lighthouse Fellowship Church of Chincoteague Island could face jail time and a $2,500 fine for holding a Palm Sunday service with 16 people in the pews, a violation of the governor's order limiting public gatherings to 10 people. The pastor says the people were properly distanced in a building that holds 293 people. The Department of Justice said in a statement the Commonwealth of Virginia has offered no good reason for refusing to trust congregants who promise to use care in worship in the same way it trusts accountants, lawyers, and other workers to do the same. Former President George W. Bush is encouraging Americans to serve society's most vulnerable and needy. In a video released over the weekend, President Bush said the challenge is to confront fear and loneliness and be creative in helping those who need it most.
Let's remember that the suffering we experience as a nation does not fall evenly. In the days to come, it will be especially important to care in practical ways for the elderly, the ill, and the unemployed.
He also called on Americans to put aside differences and remember we are all equally vulnerable and equally wonderful in the sight of God. Businesses are mobilizing to meet the needs of healthcare workers on the front lines. Across the country, leaders are responding by totally changing their production lines to turn out much-needed protection equipment. Charlene Aaron shows us how one company's switch is helping more than just the bottom line.
Since 2008, Signature Canvas Makers has been known for making products for boats. But in light of COVID-19, the business has now turned into a major mask-making operation. Charlene Clark runs this small business with her husband, Chandler, supplying canvas material for water recreation and amusement park rides. Seeing the growing demand for masks and face shields, they decided to step up.
We said, you know what, we can do this. We have the ability to do this. We have the technology to do this. We have the network of people that we can bring in to do this. So it made sense.
Using computer design technology known as CAD, the company quickly retooled, switching from recreation to protection.
We have a cutting table, so that has allowed us to really scale and scale very quickly. So we're able to cut hundreds of masks at a time rather than one or two, or smaller quantities. So it has been a little bit of a departure, but it is canvas, it is textile, it is a textile product. So that's our business. That's what we do.
With a staff of 9 employees, the business normally makes 300 to 400 surgical and filter-style masks a week. Then the Navy came knocking with a major need.
We had an order for, our first really big order was for 1,600 masks for the USS Wasp. And they had a very definitive deadline that they were asking us to meet. And we had about a week to meet that deadline. No pressure.
Allows you to adjust.
Since then, military requests have been coming in from other parts of the country.
We've been working with different other commands, all the way from here in Norfolk all the way down to Pensacola, Florida, to supply quantities to their sailors. It's been a great transition for us.
That transition allowed the Clarks to meet another need. They hired more people, including those desperate for work.
We have about 12 to 15 ladies that are working for us from their homes. They've been laid off from their jobs, their normal jobs. Most of them are professional seamstresses or tailors.
Abigail Bomar was furloughed from her job at a small boutique.
It's been a great way to spend my time, great way to make some extra money.
Thankful also for work that is making a difference.
And doing something purposeful feels great.
A sentiment shared by her new employer.
I thank God every day that we are in the position that we are in right now. I have so many friends that own their own businesses that aren't as fortunate as we are to, they've had to lay off employees. They're on, potentially on the verge of losing their businesses. We are very grateful for this opportunity. We are very grateful that we are able to employ people on the outside and help them support themselves and their families. The fact that we've been able to help some of our sailors is something that's really special to us as well.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
North and South Korean troops exchanged gunfire along the border Sunday. There are no reports of casualties or escalation. This all came just one day after North Korean media released pictures of leader Kim Jong-un in public for the first time in weeks. Kim reportedly attending the opening of a fertilizer factory near Pyongyang. It was his first public appearance in about 20 days. The long absence triggering rumors the leader was seriously ill or dead. A new legal challenge against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu threatens his political future. Sunday, Israel's Supreme Court opened discussions if Netanyahu can legally form a government while facing indictment on corruption charges. Netanyahu reached a power-sharing agreement with rival Benny Gantz last month, but his opponents say he cannot serve as prime minister while under indictment. The court has until Thursday to make a decision. If it rules against him, Israel could be forced into a fourth election. Gordon?
Well, I don't predict that they'll go into a fourth election. The Supreme Court is still a political entity, regardless of the country you're in. And to throw the country into chaos in the middle of a COVID-19 epidemic, in the middle of unemployment in Israel being over 30%, in the middle of the entire tourism industry being shut down, I don't think they're going to do this. The underlying crime, if you will, is the allegation that he gave a department post, a minister post, to the head of a media organization in exchange for favorable coverage. That's the underlying charge, and so I don't think they're going to upset this new government. It just wouldn't make any sense to do it right now. And then how do you have an election in the middle of COVID-19? That's an open question. I don't see the Supreme Court doing anything on this.